it's the 9th of February, and what I'm going to do today is I'm going to sow my leeks. Now, if you're sowing leeks inside, you can usually sow them January, February time. You can sow them straight outside, but you need to leave that until sort of March and April time, depending on obviously where you live and what the weather's like at the time. But as it's the beginning of February, or nearly a third of the way through February, I just thought that I would sow them inside. Now again, you don't need a heated greenhouse for this. My greenhouse is only heated by the sun, so I'm going to sow them in just a little seed tray. Make sure your seed tray is sort of fairly deep, because then the roots can start to go down. If you're sowing them in a tray that's just too shallow, then the roots won't have much distance to go down. They won't be able to go down and get nice and big. Therefore the tops won't get particularly big either. I'm going to leave them in this tray until they're about 5 or 6 inches tall, so they will be in the tray for quite a long time. If you don't have a deep tray, then you can always sow them in 3-inch pots. Okay, so it's not a problem. Just make sure that whatever you're sowing them in is fairly deep. Now, I'm just going to use normal multi-purpose compost. I sow them like this, the way I'm going to show you, every single year, and they seem to work absolutely wonderfully. I got some lovely leeks last year, although very near the end some of them did suffer from the little allium leaf miner, so hopefully this year there won't be a problem with them. Now, there are lots of different varieties of leeks. I've tried loads of them. There's a wonderful one if you live in a very cold place or you get lots of snow, and it's called Below Zero, and they are very good because if it snows, then they tend not to get they don't get soggy, because sometimes other leeks, if they get snow around them or if there's a frost, then you'll find that the leek goes a bit sort of soft on the top. The ones that I'm going to sow today are called Snow Star, so hopefully they'll be okay when it starts to get cold, but they're an autumn one, so I will be bringing them up before it does get too cold anyway at the end of this year. But obviously the end of this year is a long way away, and we've got to have spring and summer before then. So let me show you how to sow these. So here's my little seed tray. It's got some holes in the bottom for drainage, so just fill it nearly to the top with compost. Make sure that if there are any sort of lumps or any bits of stick in them, that you get them out, because the little seedlings, when they're growing, they won't be able to grow through them or round them. Once you've sort of loosely sort of filled it to the top, then just give it a nice sort of level off and a gentle pat down. Okay, don't pat it down too firmly, just a nice little gentle pat down. Now, if your compost is dry, then you'll need to give it just a little bit of a water, but my compost is actually a bit on the damp side because it was outside and it got a load of rain on it the other day, so I'm not actually going to water this just because it is quite damp anyway. And now all we need to do is sow the seeds. So here we have the leeks seeds. They look exactly the same as onion seeds and spring onion seeds because they come from the same family. Now, as I say, you can sow these undercover, as I'm going to do, in sort of January, February time. If you want to sow them directly outside, then you need to do them in sort of March and April time. Now, these won't be potted outside until about May, so when they're about 6 inches tall. The tray will actually look like lots of tall bits of single blades of grass growing, so they will be in this pot for a good couple of months. So all you need to do is sprinkle your seeds on top of the compost. They are quite difficult to see, so if there are some too close together, don't worry about it. Okay, most of these should germinate. I usually find that the germination rate on leeks is actually very, very good. So I'll sprinkle them in here. They will be very, very close together, but don't worry about that. When they do get a little bit bigger, if they grow really, really fast, what I may well do is actually separate them out into 3-inch pots, but I don't usually do that. I'll leave them in here and they'll grow quite sturdy and very strong before they go outside. Now once you've put all your seeds across the top, all you need to do then is to cover it just with a little bit more compost. This is just plain multi-purpose compost. So just a little bit across the top, level it off. And this actually is quite dry, so I think what I might do is just give it just a little bit of a water. Don't water it too much if you're going to water it on the top here, because you don't want the water to go over the sides, because if the water goes over the sides, the compost will go over the sides and you might lose some seeds. So I'll just give this a little bit of a water. Okay, so there are my leeks done. I've given them a little water on top. I do need to get a new rose for the end of the watering can. It's split, so I have to be very, very careful at the moment when I pour the water out, because you get big blobs of it. So I will leave this in the greenhouse. I'll leave it in one of the bigger trays, and what I'll also do is I'll put a propagator lid across the top of it. And that will just help keep an extra little bit of heat to the seeds, so that it'll help them to grow just a little bit more. Make sure you label them, or if you've got a little bit of space, extra space, then you can just put the packet next to it so that you remember what it is. When they do start to come up and they're growing beautifully, then I will take some pictures and I'll put them on my blog so that you can see them. But when I do move them outside, any sort of next major step I will show you. Leeks are incredibly easy to grow. They're very useful using them in the kitchen as well. Usually once all your onions are finished, then I tend to sort of be using the leeks instead of an onion. I've still got some in the fridge from last year, so they're still going very, very well. And in fact, they also freeze very well as well. So you can cut them up into rings and just freeze them and then just take out what you need. So that's the leeks. Well, I hope you give leeks a go, even if you just sow a few. They are very, very easy to grow. Apart from the allium leaf miner and a little bit of rust sometimes, there doesn't seem to be anything major that stops them growing, but they do look beautiful, and they just are a very easy vegetable to grow, especially if you're starting out. They're a good one to try. Okay, well, I hope you found that useful, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye bye.